Before there was Charlie Chaplin, the world's greatest silent film star, there was a quiet, resilient woman who gave him life, love, and Artet died in silence. This is the story of Hannah Chaplin. Hannah Harriet Pedlingham Hill was born in 1865 in Wolverhampton, England. Her childhood was steeped in hardship, as she grew up during a time when poverty, disease, and limited opportunities defined life for many women. Her father was a shoemaker, and her mother worked as a domestic servant, instilling in young Hannah the value of hard work and resilience. These early years were shaped by the industrial revolutions, smoke and soot, difficult for any child, but especially for a girl from a poor background. Despite the odds, Hannah developed a passion for singing and storytelling. Nurtured in local church choirs and community halls, which would later shape her journey to the stage. Taking the stage name Lily Harley, Hannah pursued a career in London's bustling music halls. She captivated audiences with her delicate soprano voice, gracing the stage with beauty, wit, and charm. For a moment, it seemed as if she would rise above the harshness of her roots. But fame in the music halls was fleeting and unpredictable. Performances were grueling, competition was fierce, and women were often objectified more than celebrated. Hannah persisted, not for glamour, but to survive and provide for her sons. Hannah's success brought admirers, but little stability. She fell in love with Charles Chaplin Sr., a fellow entertainer. But their relationship was stormy, and eventually, he abandoned her, left to raise young Charlie and his brother Sidney alone. Hannah found herself battling not just financial hardship, but emotional isolation. She took on sewing jobs, scrubbed floors, and still found time to sing to her boys, often rehearsing lullabies and theatrical lines with Charlie at her side. Those moments, though brief, were seeds planted in the young boy's creative heart. She often told stories of her own mother, who had once sung for soldiers during wartime. These family tales, rich with resilience and spirit, gave Charlie not only memories but a moral compass. Her humble acts of kindness, sharing what little food they had with hungry neighbors, or calming a crying child in a boarding house, left impressions deeper than any theater performance. Years of stress and misfortune took a toll on her health. Hannah began suffering from severe mental disturbances. She would talk to herself, hear voices, and struggle with disordered thinking. Doctors now believe she may have suffered from syphilitic psychosis, or untreated bipolar disorder, both common and misunderstood at the time. Her declining mental health created an unstable environment for young Charlie and his brother Sidney. They were often forced into workhouses or left to fend for themselves, enduring hunger and loneliness. One night, Hannah even lost her voice mid-performance and was booed off stage. That failure led to one of the darkest spirals in her mental health. This emotional chaos became a wellspring of inspiration for Charlie's later films, where themes of poverty, abandonment, and the fragility of human dignity would resonate deeply with global audiences. Hannah's illness, though tragic, unknowingly helped shape a master storyteller. Hannah was eventually committed to Cane Hill Asylum. Her young son Charlie visited her there. The iron gates, long corridors, and silence of the place left a deep impression on the boy. He remembered the sterile smell, the whispered prayers of the forgotten, and the way his mother clutched his hand with a smile that seemed to beg him not to forget her. It was here among pale walls and broken spirits that Charlie Chaplin found both heartbreak and inspiration. During his visits, Charlie would bring her flowers, news of his rising fame, and sometimes sit by her bedside, reading plays aloud. These moments gave Hannah flickers of recognition, brief connections where time stood still. Though her mind wandered, her love for Charlie remained unmistakable. Staff at the asylum often noted how she would hum melodies from her youth, her fingers tracing invisible notes in the air. Charlie rose from London's streets to become the most famous actor of the silent film era. As millions laughed at the tramp, few knew the silent pain that shaped the man. He never abandoned his mother. He paid for her care, tried to bring her joy, and even brought her to California for a brief time until her condition worsened again. The sorrow and resilience he witnessed in Hannah would later emerge in his films, particularly in The Kid 1921, where the deep emotional bond between a mother and a child is heartbreakingly portrayed. In many ways, Hannah's suffering was transformed into art through Charlie's lens. He once said, "My mother had a marvelous voice and a wonderful sense of theater. Everything I am, I owe to her." One of the most touching scenes in his film career was inspired by a real moment from his childhood. After a long day of street performing, a young Charlie returned home to find his mother waiting with a bowl of hot broth. Despite having barely eaten herself, she smiled and said, "This is for my star." That memory never left him. Hannah's later years were marked by brief moments of clarity, surrounded by shadows. Her condition deteriorated slowly, and though she had periods of peace and recognition, she never truly recovered. In California, Charlie would wheel her into gardens, hoping that sunshine and birdsong might ease her mind. Neighbors would see him gently adjusting her shawl or reading aloud from Shakespeare, his voice cracking with emotion. When she passed away in 1928, in Cane Hill Asylum, the world hardly noticed, but to Charlie, it was the loss of his first muse, his greatest love, and the woman whose resilience had fueled his dream. At her funeral, attended by few, Charlie stood in silence, remembering not just a mother, but a warrior who had given him everything. He would later say that every tear his characters shed, every moment of kindness or despair they portrayed, carried a piece of Hannah within. Charlie Chaplin's art, his empathy, his humor, his portrayal of the outcast was born of his childhood pain. That pain had a name. Hannah. Her love, her struggle, her tragic end-all became part of his greatness. Without Hannah's story, there would be no Charlie Chaplin. And in remembering her, we honor the thousands of unnamed women who shaped the artists and leaders of the world. To further honor her legacy, we reflect on how her story still resonates today. The modern world often overlooks the silent burdens carried by caregivers, single mothers, and those dealing with mental illness. Hannah Chaplin was not just Charlie's mother, she was a symbol of unwavering devotion and resilience. Her story encourages us to see beyond the curtain of fame and recognize the human struggles that shape extraordinary lives. Even today, echoes of her story ripple through cinematic history. Hannah's perseverance and tragedy continue to inspire artists, writers, and historians. She reminds us of the power behind maternal love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the cost of being forgotten. Her story is more than just a footnote in Charlie Chaplin's biography. It is a testimony to countless women who lived in the shadows yet helped illuminate the world. In recent years, interest in Hannah's life has grown among scholars and fans alike. Documentaries and biographies increasingly recognize her as a formative figure behind one of the most iconic artists of the 20th century. Museums, Chaplin retrospectives, and film schools now include mentions of her life, finally giving her a voice long after she lost her own. For every child who rises above hardship, there is often a silent hero behind them. In Charlie Chaplin's case, that hero was Hannah. Her story, once nearly forgotten, is now finding its rightful place in history. Through remembrance, we offer dignity. Through storytelling, we offer legacy, as the Global Orphan House continues to uncover and share these forgotten lives. Let Hannah's journey remind us that love, dignity, and sacrifice are the invisible threads that tie generations together. Her courage lives on not only in the laughter of her son's timeless films, but in the hearts of every viewer who learns her name. May her soul rest in peace.